Last night, the federal government decided they were just going to cut the razor wire at the border on Texas at Eagle Pass. Just came in, cut it, cameras were rolling. There were about 4,000 Venezuelans waiting on the other side and 14,000, and now it's a state of emergency in Eagle Pass. When is Texas going to actually become Texas? My second question to Ken Paxton, and we begin right now. Ken, welcome to the program. I'm glad this is all behind you. It seemed to me to be an absolute witch hunt, but I wanted to ask you one question on this, because I know you covered a lot of this with Tucker Carlson yesterday, but let me go into the Wall Street Journal, why Ken Paxton was acquitted, and it's by the entire editorial board, and it's just ridiculous. But listen to this. It says, Mr. Paxton's defenders are spinning that he was saved by a populist national conservative groundswell to put an end to the Bush era in Texas. What a joke. There is no longer a Bush era in Texas or anywhere else. George P. Bush, Jeb Bush's son, lost to Mr. Paxton. Yeah, well, yes. So how is that the end of the Bush? Oh, these people. What really happened on Saturday is that Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick chose to rescue in a rebuke of his rival, House Speaker Dade Phelan. The acquittal is perhaps a satisfying victory for Mr. Patrick over his House rival, but it may not play out so well for Texas Republicans in the longer run. A federal investigation into Mr. Paxton is continuing amid reports that a grand jury has been impaneled. What do you know about that, Ken?
Well, first of all, I do have to thank the people of Texas, thank my wife, Angela, and my kids. I am here because by the grace of God and those people that I just mentioned. Look, the Biden administration, I've sued them 48 times in 2.5 years. I sued the Obama administration 27 times in 27 months. This was organized by the Biden administration. People, how could that be? It happens because in Texas, the speaker is elected by 65 Democrats and 10 Republicans. That's all it takes. And what the Democrats do is they block vote. They figure out which Republican is going to give them the most as speaker, and they pick Dade Phelan. And why? Because Dade Phelan agreed to this deal with the Biden administration, went straight through the Texas Democrats, and they came after me. And shoot, I've been investigated ever since the day I walked into this office, and I have no doubt that the Biden administration would love to find some way. They've been working on it for years to get rid of me, and part of that process was the impeachment.
So I have to tell you, I think Phelan should be impeached himself. This was just such a sham of everything that was going on. But let me talk about the border here, because, Ken, while you've been away, Texas has been a wuss in many cases. Yesterday, the razor wire in Eagle Pass was cut. We have this gigantic colony in Houston, which is, they're chaining girls up and raping them. One escaped, tried to, and was killed. Both of them ended up dead. There's all kinds of cartel activity going on. This is a colony in Houston the size of Washington, D.C. More people are on the way. When is Texas going to become Texas?
So I literally had my first briefing on all of this stuff yesterday, and from my office, obviously I've missed 4 months. And I had people that have left. There's lots of stuff that I didn't know what was going on because I wasn't allowed to get information from my office. And so yesterday I spent more time talking about immigration and what's going on along the border and what can we do. And so we're in the process of looking at potential lawsuits. I don't have an army of soldiers that can go out and do anything about it.
I know.
That's not what the legislature gives me. All I can do is what I can do in court. And so we already had a bunch of lawsuits filed against the Biden administration, but we're definitely looking at more, and we're trying to figure out how can we stop this travesty which the Biden administration is promoting. And it's pretty clear to me they do not care about the American people. This is so horrible, and the consequences for people on the border that are U.S. citizens and for our state are devastating. And those consequences with drugs and crime are going to be felt in this country for a long time to come.
So did the governor reach out to you yesterday at all about the wire cutting?
I did not hear from his office yesterday. My staff may have, but I did not.
Okay.
I didn't know about it until you just said something.
No one from the governor's office called you about the federal government cutting the razor wire and letting thousands of people in across our border at Eagle Pass? No one called you.
I heard about that story on right before your show started as I listened to the news. That's when I heard about the wire. I did not know.
Okay. You said to Tucker yesterday in your interview with him, and it just kind of went, and he didn't follow up. And I found this quite important. The Court of Appeals in the state of Texas, apparently now you cannot prosecute voter fraud in Texas. Is that true?
Yes, that is correct. They struck down a law from 1951. And by the way, I have 4 things that I'm supposed to do under the Constitution. The final thing is such things as are required by law. And in 1951, the legislature directed the Attorney General. It's the only thing I have original jurisdiction on as it relates to criminal matters was voter fraud. And the Court of Criminal Appeals, all Republican, by the way. And by the way, nobody knows who they are. This is why I think they've been put there. And I'm convinced they're not Republicans, because they struck down this law and it said that I don't have the authority to go to court as Attorney General because I'm in the executive branch. That was their rationale for striking down, saying it was unconstitutional for the Attorney General to be in court. And I'm like, is that the most insane decision ever? But they did it, and now it's up to the local DAs to prosecute it.
Oh my gosh!
The Travis County, the Dallas County, the Harris County, which is Houston, Barrett County, they're not going to prosecute voter fraud. Guess what? They just opened up voter fraud. And the people of Texas need to know that. And there's 3 of the 9 members up coming up in March for a primary. We have to find people to run, and we have to beat those people, or we are going to lose the state. Because I tried to get this law passed again so that I could start doing it again and make them strike it down again. And guess who killed it? Dade Phelan. I called them. He never returned my calls, but I was told by his team that they didn't have time to pass this law, even though I got it through the Senate.
My gosh. That's
where we are with Dade Phelan. That's where we are with the Texas House. And that's where we are with the Court of Criminal Appeals that no one knows. And by the way, that is our highest court. It's like our Supreme Court. We're only one of 2 states that has this for all criminal matters. So I have no appeal right. So when they strike down this as unconstitutional and say I can't prosecute voter fraud, I have no ability to get around that. I'm stuck. And that's what I'm trying to fix.
Okay. So who needs to be called? The House?
The House needs to pass this next time. It's a lost 2 years that I can't prosecute voter fraud. And in March, I think we're going to have 3 people to run against the members of the Court of Appeals. We've got to get those people elected because we lost 8-1. And if we can get 3 new members, we'll at least be 5-4, and we'll be sending the message: you cannot strike down.
Okay, who are those 3 members? Who are the 3 members that are?
I do not have that off the top of my head. Look,
I'll find them.
I bet you. 3 members are going to be up this time. I think one of them is like Michelle Slaughter, I think Barbara Herbie, and I'm trying to remember the third one. I think those are the 3 that are up.
Okay, we'll find out. And
it's a big deal, Glenn. I don't think there's any more important issue than making sure we fix that court. Because
why did this happen? How did this happen?
Okay, so I think George Soros, in my opinion, he was trying to do 3 things. One, get the DAs elected in these liberal counties. So he beat all these Democratic DAs that were prosecuting crimes. He did it in Travis County, an unseated Democrat there that was actually prosecuting crimes. He did the same thing in San Antonio. So he got control of that, knowing full well that this would affect voting. Second, he helped put 9 members on the Supreme Court, actually 8. Kevin Urey is awesome. The other 8, no one knows who they are. And I think because Republicans don't know who these people are, he was able to get these members of the court to strike down this law. And then the third strategy was get rid of me, and then there's no hope. There's nowhere to go. So that was the goal. They didn't get rid of me, so there's still hope, and we've got to change the Court of Criminal Appeals, and we've got to get the House next time to pass this law.
You know, Donald Trump said yesterday, let me see if I can actually quote him on something. He said yesterday that if there is a defeat in 2024, it will mean the end of the country. The 2024 presidential election will be nothing less than the final battle for the U.S. I'm beginning to think that is absolutely true if we make it to 2024?
I told him when he was running for re-election in May that I was fighting a battle to stop massive mail-out ballots in all the biggest counties, Travis County, which is Austin, Harris County, which is Houston. We had 12 lawsuits. And I said, if I don't win every single one of those lawsuits, you're going to lose Texas. He's like, what? That's not possible. I said, it doesn't matter what your polling says. If they can send out 6 or 7 million ballots, or just one county, say Harris County sends out 2.5 million ballots, you won by 600,000 votes, you're not going to win Texas. They will count votes because we can't verify. If they just mail them out to everybody and there's no signature verification, which is still not even the best way to make sure people are voting right, and we have no way to verify, they're going to be able to cheat, count as many ballots as they want. They'll figure out what their numbers are. And guess what? We stopped every one of those 12 lawsuits, even though we were in terrible places with terrible judges. And I watched election night, and I was like, this is exactly, they stopped counting votes for a couple of days. Why? So they can figure out how many votes they needed to count with these mail-in ballots. And that's exactly what happened in these other states. And whenever I bring it up, they say I'm crazy, but that's exactly what they did.
You know, one thing I really worry about is the number of illegals in our country, the ones that we don't even know about. We already, since Biden got into office, we have already passed the population of 15 different states. Combinations of 3 states would equal the amount that has come in. You're seeing crime and everything else, and we're only seeing the surface of this. I wonder if Texas can stand. How much is this changing? If they can just register or get people in here to do voting, which is their plan. Beyond that, the crime, the social services, the hospitals. We're so close to the border. If we don't get this border sealed, we're done.
No, this is the plan. You know, people are like, why is Biden doing this? 2 reasons. One is the first reason, voting. Getting as many of these people into Republican states so that they can become voters, whether it's legal or illegal. Right now, they can vote illegally, and no one's going to do anything about it. It won't matter. Second, they wanted to get as many people, illegals, into these Republican states because guess what? We're doing better than the Democratic states. We have low taxes, less regulation, more opportunity, better governance, and they want to bring in more problems. They want to take us down because the story is too good for Texas and Florida and Tennessee and Utah. The Republican states are successful. The Democratic states are losing people because people are voting with their feet. And the Biden administration said, okay, we'll make you pay for it. We're going to make you pay for all this stuff, schooling, healthcare, law enforcement, crime. Your kids are going to die. We're going to get you. And that's what the Biden administration is all about.
Well, any good news to report?
Yeah, there is a God and there's always hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, it looked like they were going to be able to railroad you. And look, I know you're not a perfect person, but you know, I had a real problem when they came to the impeachment hearings after promising, just like the Democrats do, all kinds of evidence, and then literally nothing.
They said their lawyers, Glenn, said it was going to be 10 times worse than the public knew. And guess what? It was 10 times less. They tried to railroad me out by having no due process, no sworn testimony, which is required by law, no due process, no chance for me to refute any of this stuff, all done secretly. No transparency, done in 3 days, and designed to smother me because now I'm out of office. I have no resources. I spent all my money on the campaign. I had no lawyers. I had 3 months to figure out what they had, and they kept hiding the information, even though they were required to turn it over. And then, of course, I had a gag order, so I couldn't defend myself. I couldn't go out and talk. I couldn't call you. On the other hand, they were able to leak information to the press, and every day I was getting pounded. All of that was against me, and yet, because of the people of Texas, because of my strong family support, my wife's support, and because by the grace of God, you know, I just decided I'm going to fight this to the last second. I will not resign because if they win this, then they can just do this to anybody they want. Exactly. I will not let the voters down.
So who's going to pay for this? I mean, is any investigation? I don't want revenge. I want this not to be able to happen again.
No. So Dan Patrick, God bless him for this. He called for an audit, which I think is fair because they were trying to hide how much money they were spending. So I think we're going to find out how much money they spent, which is millions. And look, it's totally unfair to push somebody out of office with no proof. And then I've got to go pay for it, and I could lose just because they have all the money from the taxpayers, and I'm left with just nothing. Most people would not have made it through that with no resources. And that is unfair for the House to be able to suspend me with no proof and then take away Glenn Hager, the comptroller, illegally cuts my salary off to punish me, even though he had no authority to do that. And he still hasn't started my salary back. And I'm supposed to survive this. They did everything they could to make it impossible for me to get the truth out and to survive.
This is so we're becoming
will of the voters, against the will of the voters.
We are becoming an old Soviet state. It's terrifying.
This is Texas, Glenn. Texas.
Oh, I know. Ken, thank you very much. I appreciate it. God bless.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.